So, while I was stuck in like 40 minutes of traffic because two cars decide to want to turn at the same time and smack dabbed in front of each other, one car was crumpled in on the side and the other one was pretty much crumpled in all the way on the front. I got a few ideas about one more Uplift Protocol topic. Uplift Protocol and parenthood. See, because for me, for a stable parent relationship, one mom, one dad, because a lot of media is missing stable nuclear families. So Uplift Protocol is going to have a fair amount of stable nuclear families. Now, in Anna's case, Family 1.0 didn't quite work out. Family 2.0 will work out just fine, but she's also healed a lot of her relationship issues with her children from her previous marriage. And that was mainly due to a plot point of she was receiving a whole lot of divine signals and whatnot from the weave to be like, oh, hey, you might want to watch out for this trouble coming. But she didn't know how to interpret it at the time. But on the main side of things, yes, all the pairings in Uplift Protocol that are traditional pairings, man and woman, they get married because it's a religious rite, and they go off and create families. You have a tendency to do that sort of thing when you genuinely love your spouse. So, that's an aspect that will probably get some future one stars all up in arms because it's like, oh, but why didn't you marry off Eliza and Lorraine? One, Eliza is actually a bit more religious of the two. And she doesn't feel right about having Doc go through a religious ceremony that is essentially, for men and women. Now, Doc is a more of like, well, if I can't get married human style, then we'll just be joined Typherian style, which is completely different in my setting from a religious rite. For the Typherians, especially the house ones, it's more like combining certain kind of genetics together to create more powerfully induced, house abilities and all that stuff. But of course, that aspect was also corrupted by unity and all that fun jazz. Woohoo! And of the different factions, the commons adhere more towards the traditional Typherian outlook of the Temple of the Three and all that stuff. I haven't really given a name to the religion of the Weave / the Highest, but it is heavily influenced, if you haven't noticed, by Judeo-Christian kind of setup, or hierarchy. Because you know what, I honestly wanted that in my books as well, because Christian myth and lore has a whole lot of stuff in it that you can explore and create various stories about. Now, am I hitting the reader over the head with it? No. Personally, I don't see myself doing that. I'm just putting 100% of things that I want to see into Uplift Protocol. Doc and Eliza would have what you would consider a legal union. They get, certain kinds of benefits from that, but they are not married. In fact, the Duck Brothers storyline will help go into certain things. I have a novella in the works with it showcasing Doc's dynamic with Gulliver there, because if you've noticed, Trouble attaches himself a lot more to Eliza. Gulliver attached himself a lot more towards Lorraine, because if you've noticed if you've been reading the series, I like to do certain things in pairs. Now, pairs can come into different dynamics. Like, you have pairs that are like brother and sister, like black and white. You have pairs that are traditional romantic, like, husband and wife, which that's what Adam and Eve is in my setup. But they also have a different role. If everybody's caught up, you'll be able to see that in the couple most recent issues. So yeah, like for me, I'm pretty heavy on the three symbolism for certain things, and also on the pairing symbolism Whether, again, whether that's a family pairing of siblings or a husband and wife pairing, or even some pairings between kids in terms of, like, the little boy Typherian protecting the little girl human in the age of creation. Like, there's different dynamics. I also want to showcase, like, at each level, like, how I see men and women acting versus how I see little boys and little girls acting. Because really, even when I was growing up, like I was like 8 or 9, like, the boys were pretty protective of me. Like, even though I was a tomboy, the boys would usually step in to be like, oh, wait, there's a garden snake. He'll protect me. Because, again, I wasn't very much fond of snakes or creepy crawly stuff. So the very brave boys that were next to me were like, don't worry, we'll take care of the creepy crawlies, because half the time they like the creepy crawlies anyway, and digging through the dirt. And that's another aspect I think is missing. It's like, you have to let boys be a bit more dynamic and take some risks, because they're more prone to doing that, at least when I was growing up. But then again, I also grew up in a nuclear household, dad, mom, brother. And nowadays you see it, and people are not, it's rare to see a nuclear family in comparison to when I was growing up. So I wanted to give that stability to a lot of the characters in Uplift Protocol. Like, they know where they come from, they know who their dad is, they know who their mom is, they even know who their grandparents are, even if the grandparents aren't around. Like in Nola's case, her mother is gone. Not dead, but that's also another little plot element that's going to come out of the woodwork. Because if you noticed, even with Diaxe's family, I put them back together again. Because again, guys, this is a superversive series. If you don't see a body, there might be something going on. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I honestly think a dad brings a dynamic to a family that's needed for a kid, and the mom brings a dynamic to a family that's needed for a child as well. It's one, so that they'll have influences from both sides. They'll see how a healthy couple should interact with each other. My parents would often have conversations in front of me and my brother, but mostly to showcase that they resolved their differences, like the really private conversations they didn't have in front of us as kids. But there were certain things that they did discuss in front of us to show that they were working as a team to solve issues. And I just really wanted to bring that particular setup to Uplift Protocol, because I know a lot of people didn't get to grow up in a standard household, just where both parents are there. It doesn't even matter about like the economic level or anything else, just where both parents are really there, and they didn't like autopilot the kid in front of the TV all the time. It's like, yes, I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid, a lot of cartoons, but my parents were usually there watching stuff with me. So again, I'm just pouring what I want into Uplift Protocol, even in a subconscious way in most instances, just because I miss seeing a stable dynamic in entertainment. That way you're not dealing with one parent that's had multiple wives, or the lady has had multiple husbands, or they've had like 5 divorces, that sort of thing. Because you see a lot of that in entertainment nowadays, where it's the complete instability of it all. So I'm just tired of it. So yes, while Lorraine and Eliza aren't going to get married, they'll still have a healthy enough life with each other, but they're going to be caregivers. They're not going to be parents. In fact, that's the reason why Eliza initially handed the baby boy off to her dad. One, so he could have some one-on-one time with the kid and be like, oh, hey, this is a grandkid, even if it's from another universe. But it's also because she knows she can't fill a certain hole, a certain void in that kid's life, so they are going to bring him back to his family. It's just they have to get through a lot of keeper shenanigans to do it. And yes, the clone story arc is going to have very big implications for the Eternal Empire later. Like I said, I have most of the arcs plotted out. It's just little tiny details that I leave kind of out in the ether to where it's like, when would be a good time to introduce X, Y, or Z? So I guess I could leave this as like a part 1, basically, if I come back to the topic at hand later. But yeah, like me, I just want to see stable relationships. No matter what the kind of relationships those are, whether it's a family relationship, whether it's between a married couple, or if it's a stable relationship between siblings, you know, I mean like a normal relationship, not like some crazy Game of Thrones bullshit, you know. Because if you know me and Game of Thrones don't get along at all.